Yes, indeed. Back here on Storm Chasers Live, I'm Donny Barnes. Pleased to be joined now by WWE Hall of Famer Jim Duggan.
Well, thank you, brother. But you know the first thing Hacksaw Jim Duggan has to do is give a big ho! Kind of fires me up, you know, gets me ready to go nowadays.
That was my whole goal, is to get you to do that. I didn't even have to ask. That's great. Yeah. Now, what do your friends actually call you? They call you Hacksaw? They call you Jim?
Well, they call me, a lot of folks just say Hack, you know, cut it short, Hack. Duggan, you know, don't have too many friends, so they don't call me too often.
You started out as a football player, and then you hurt your knee, and then you got into wrestling. Was there ever anything else you thought about doing after football?
No, I thought I might be a fireman. You know, I like the excitement of a fireman, helping people out, rushing to a fire or another emergency. But wrestling worked out good. I've been wrestling now for 37 years. And it's amazing the appeal of wrestling around the world. You know, since I've been wrestling, I wrestled in every state in the Union, every province in Canada, and 30 different countries. It's great to be part of such a popular organization, WWE.
How'd you develop your catchphrase? When did you start doing that?
Well, I got a big splinter in my thumb one time, and I went, oh! No, I noticed Ric Flair was out there, and he was yelling at the folks. He was going, woo! And I'm like, Rick, are your trunks too tight? I don't get the woo! So I started going the ho, and folks started yelling back at me, and it's worked out great over the years.
When you go out in public, are people sometimes surprised to see you in like normal clothes, not in character?
Well, yeah, usually if I'm sitting somewhere, folks look at me long enough and start to figure out, but folks tend to remember our generation of guys, you know, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Randy Savage, Jake the Snake Roberts, Junkyard Dog. That was kind of the golden age of wrestling, and it was great to be part of that era.
When you guys go out in public, do people sometimes try to like pick fights with you or try to act tough around you? Do you ever have that happen sometimes?
Not too often at this stage, you know. But sometimes when you go out to clubs, you have to be careful. You have to have security. But 99% of the folks are glad to see, and it's actually humbling to be remembered this many years after my heyday.
You know, baseball's a game where you have to have a lot of physical endurance because you're playing every single day. I was reading early in your career, you had a stretch where you had to wrestle 54 straight nights. How physically, mentally, how tough do you have to be?
Well, you know, back in the day, a lot of folks try to compare us to sports teams, you know, but we were actually more like a rock and roll band because you're flying all over the world, different cities every night, different show. Of course, back then, it was before contracts. So if you didn't work, you didn't get paid. So I was glad to work those 54 days straight.
Yeah, I mean, when you pick up, I'm sure you must have had little injuries along the way. I mean, you're slamming into guys every day.
Yeah, it's a very physical business. Injuries are a huge problem now, of course, with other sports entities. We're having trouble with concussions. But when you got two big guys out there flying around, joint injuries are always a problem. Knees, elbows, surgeries over my career. So it's a physical business, but you know that going into it.
Yeah. Let's talk about the 2x4. There was a really practical reason why you started carrying the 2x4 into the ring every night. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, back in the day, long before it was sports entertainment, it was a very dangerous business. You know, I was a bad guy, and imagine that, right, brother?
I can't imagine.
No, but just getting back and forth to the ring was very dangerous. The people would punch you and kick at you. So I'm sitting back in the dressing room, and my mentor, Bruiser Brody, comes in. He goes, Duggan, if you carry something to the ring, carry something you can use. Forget those feathered boas and sequin robes. And I'm like, well, here's a piece of wood. I picked it up. I came out yelling, waving that piece of wood. It was like parting the Red Sea. Them people scattered. I got to the ring. I'm like, this is great. I've been carrying it ever since.
Yeah, and you've done really well. And there's the stereotype of the old washed-up wrestler who has trouble after he leaves the ring. But you've never had those issues. You've been married, what, 32 years now?
I've been with my wife for 32 years. Never had to go to rehab for booze or drugs. No felony arrest. A couple of misdemeanors, but it was the 80s, brother. But yeah, overall, it's been a great business for me. And so many folks do hear the negative stuff, but there's also positive stories out there. But folks like to dwell on the car wrecks.
Right. Well, it's great to see you here. Great to see you doing well. Thanks for being in Omaha and being at Werner Park.
Well, my pleasure, brother. And if they need any pitch hitting, I told them to come up and ask
right.
me, you know. But before we go, brother, let's do one together.
All right.
Here we go, baby. Ho! That was a pretty good ho.
That was good.
Not a bad ho.
Hey, Jim Duggan says I'm pretty good. That's awesome. Made my day. Jim Duggan, WWE Hall of Famer. That does it for us on Storm Chasers Live today. Remember to go to the Chasers Facebook page, like the Landscapes for Life giveaway post from Sun Valley Landscaping. Enjoy this great game, this great 4th of July weekend.